Federal government spends 568.5 billion naira yearly on power tariff shortfall, says the World Bank. Banking sector records 356.47 trillion naira e-transactions in the fourth quarter of 2020, says the National Bureau of Statistics. OPEC Joint Technical Committee meets to review all market developments. And on Business Express this morning, we shall be focusing on how Nigeria can overcome its huge housing deficit. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Katun. Baba Tunde. A total volume of 3.46 billion transactions valued at 356.47 trillion naira were recorded in the fourth quarter of 2020 as data on electronic payment channels in the Nigerian banking sector. The National Bureau of Statistics said this in its report on selected banking sector data, noting that online transfers dominated the volume of transactions recorded. The NBS also added that 2.23 billion volumes of online transfer transactions valued at 120.27 trillion naira were recorded in the fourth quarter of 2020. In terms of credit to the private sector, the total value of credit allocated by the bank stood at 20.37 trillion naira as fourth quarter of 2020. Also, oil and gas and manufacturing sectors got credit allocation of 3.93 trillion naira and 3.19 trillion naira to record the highest credit allocation is at that review period. Now, the Association of Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria, ABCON, has called on the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to introduce measures that will counter the advantages of cryptocurrencies exchanges as a channel for diaspora remittances. ABCON made this call in its quarterly economic review for the first quarter of 2021, adding that such measures are necessary to redirect diaspora remittance inflow away from cryptocurrency exchanges to official channels. Though the association commended the CBN for the 5 naira to a dollar rebate scheme introduced to encourage diaspora Nigerians to use official channels for remittance transfers, it however noted that the Apex Bank needs to address other issues driving the patronage of cryptocurrency exchanges for remittance transfer. Let's now see how the naira is exchanging for other currencies. Now, the housing deficit in Nigeria has been a recurring conversation in the past, and in order to increase the supply of housing in Nigeria, we need to equally increase demand, so says the experts. The biggest factor in increasing the demand for housing is through the availability of funds to the buyer. The average length of mortgage globally is 25 years. However, in Nigeria, many people have to save up to buy their houses through full cash down payments. According to a recent report by PricewaterhouseCoopers PwC, there is a present deficit of more than 17 million houses in Nigeria, and this requires about 700,000 new houses to be built yearly compared to the less than 100,000 houses that are being constructed yearly. One good news is that the present administration is doing all it can to address the challenge. And to take a critical look at how Nigeria can overcome its huge housing deficit is an infrastructure expert, Michael Bello Adeza. You're welcome to Business Express this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So can you just talk us through your assessment of government efforts at making houses available and affordable?
Okay, thank you very much. The government are trying, but the best is not yet done. The best is not yet done is that we have all the facilities, all the resources to improve in our housing development. Why do I say so? We have cement factories, we have ceramic factories. Government can as well partner with those private firms to supply goods to develop our houses, then pay them over time. Government can do so. Government can as well. Infrastructural loan is not there. Government can assist the public to access infrastructural loan to enable them to own a home for themselves.
Okay, and now you're talking infrastructural loans, but we're having this cash crunch problem in the country presently. So of course we have to make do with what is available, and where the available is not there, the desirable becomes the available. So it's said that's where private people like you come in. So as a private person now, how can the average person out there comfortably secure a home?
Okay, thank you. As a private organization that I run, the average people out there, the only way they can secure a home is by accessing infrastructural loan. What I mean by accessing infrastructural loan, how easy can we make it for them? The house itself is a collateral. You can deposit the document of the house itself to the bank to access a loan. That's where our commercial banks comes in as well. So in order to make it easier for people to access houses, it's for government to partner with private organizations.
Okay, great. So with a rapid urbanization and economic growth, we have seen also, as you have just rightly pointed out, some of these efforts. In other countries, we see that it's so easy to own a home because there's a working mortgage system. What laws do you think should be amended, or perhaps should be enforced or put in place to see that this mortgage system works?
Thank you very much. There's a system called Federal Housing Authority. Years back, they developed houses in all over the states. If you can strengthen that system, the urbanization, the rapid urbanization into that's causing all these houses deficit will be reduced. For example, when it was in 1983, there was a federal housing system. They developed houses all over Nigeria. They have federal housing, all over the state, spread all over the state, that every ordinary person can access and titular is a permanent houses. If government can strengthen federal housing authority, the ordinary people can access the facility.
Okay. If ordinary people are accessing these facilities right now, as you heard earlier, we have the gap. We're in need of 700,000 houses annually, but the best we can get is 100,000. 100,000. So, and we're talking unemployment. So really, how is it that developers like you, who are in the private sector, how can you, how do you get to collaborate with government to see that this expertise that we need in the built industry, for instance, is being harnessed into wealth?
Okay, thank you. For instance, I have a project that I'm running. The way I can partner with government, remember the property itself is a collateral.
Yes, sir.
I can as well deposit that with government, infrastructure bank, or any commercial bank, for them to come in and invest. And the subscribers will pay over time. The highest mortgage is 25 years. It's 25 years. So if a subscriber comes to subscribe in the property is, like I said, the property is a collateral. You can make it easier by ordinary person depositing 30% of it and pay with rent over years.
Okay, but people are just are having to complain that the repayment period is so expensive. Have you had that complaint?
Yes, because no, why is it expensive? Because the structure is the building itself is too expensive. Why? Even our government system, they are not helping issues. Look at the rates, the charges in the development control for you to even develop a 1 hectare of land. The charges alone. By the time you compute the charges and the cost of the land, what are you going to build there? How much are you going to sell it? If a structure is 10 million naira for instance, and someone who earns 200,000 a month cannot access it, how many Nigerians earn 200,000 a month? That is the problem. If that's why I still talk about government. If government can partner with private developers, you have 10 hectares of land to develop, they value it. But they evaluate, and that development levy we paid over time. It will make it easier for the private developers as well.
Okay, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing has come up with this program for smart housing. I don't know if you're aware of it, and also to come at a cheaper costs. Let's have your thoughts on that program.
This smart housing program, is it going to cut across the country?
So they said.
I'm here to see it. Because it's going to be very difficult. We talk about urbanization, rapid urbanization. What is the job the people in my local government doing for them to access the house? There's no resources in the rural areas. There's no work, no job. How would they access it? And mortgage law, you must deposit 30% before you can access the mortgage. Where are they going to get the money from?
So in all of these, and now where is the place of increased budgetary allocations to the housing sector?
Infrastructure. They should increase the budget allocation to infrastructure. That will help to reduce.
Okay? Before I missed this one now. What is the relationship between those of you who are developers and the infrastructure bank?
The relationship with us developers with infrastructure bank is 20%.
Can you explain that?
Okay. Number one, you need to get your building approval done. Let me take Abuja for instance, where I operate mostly. You need to get your building approval done. And before you get that building approval, you would have paid a huge amount of money. If you don't have the huge amount of money to pay, what becomes of you? And if there's no building approval, the property itself is not bankable. True. So how do you access the loan? That is the problem. That's why I found out that normally how we make this easier with our subscribers is that when we have a place and while the building approval is in process, we can clear the place and make the place look developable. Then when the building approval is out, we can make a flexible payment plan, maybe over 1 year, 2 years for you to access, to pay fully paid for the land and develop by yourself. Because we offer you the prototype plan. Because if you still want to go and build by yourself, to sell that structure alone becomes a problem. If I take a loan from bank, because of the interest rate, that's why I see if you go to the Logoma area, you see empty structures everywhere. Because by the time they look at the money they invested on the property and the interest and all that, nobody will be able to access the building. Banks are taking over people's houses all over.
Okay, so we have to just find a pragmatic way of getting the cost down. I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Michael Adeza, for coming on the program. Now, the food industry has seen some of the most notable changes caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, from the ravaging virus to lockdown and a second phase. Food businesses like restaurants, bookers trudged on against all odds. Boss Table had a chat with a booker operator.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Fausat Yusuf, popularly known as Iya Fatai, has been in the food business for many years. Even though business has its own ups and downs, here Fatai narrates how the unexpected COVID-19 pandemic gave the worst hit that almost shattered her business.
I started my business 1992. That time things are cheap. You can't compare it with now. We are managing, but it's not easy. The first lockdown is very tough. Reason one is that so many people doesn't know that they are going to lock us up. And some people don't even have money at home. Some people don't have food at house. Even the business, everything is shut down. So that is why it's not easy for all.
Amid the first lockdown, Iya Fatai structured the business strategically, which enabled her scale through the first and second wave, and lessons learned has kept her going.
My people used to say one proverb, don't eat with your 10 hands. From example, if I doing a business, if not 200 naira, keep it aside. In case of incasity, so not everything, even if you have 500 naira, don't spend it all. Keep small aside, because nobody put mind that we are going to lock down.
Every business owner naturally strives to grow his or her venture, and capital is an integral factor.
If I'm lucky to get the money from the CBN, I will be very happy because my business will still boom again.
With the rollout of vaccines and gradual easing of the impact of the pandemic in Nigeria, Iya Fatai is optimistic that things will return to normal and her business will bounce back soon. Boss said the Able Business Express.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Boss Abel there with some food business. Let's now join Musa, who is also a participant at the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning's one-day workshop on finance, health and security. It is ongoing now at the headquarters of the ministry. Musa, if you can hear me, what's the situation there?
Well, we are at the auditorium of the Federal Ministry of Finance and National Planning. Well, where a workshop is about to start right now. The workshop is going to be on funding for health security in the country. But I have with me Dr. Vivian here, who will give us an insight of what the issues will be like and what they are going to discuss in the one-day workshop.
Good morning all. The workshop on financing health security in Nigeria is an intersection of health financing and health security, where we're bringing key MDAs across 19 agencies that work on health security in Nigeria to come interact with members of the officers from the budget office. Is to look at the Nigerian experience to date on financing health security and then find strategies on how to improve and then value for money. But it's also basically to address some gaps that are there concerning health security in Nigeria.
Okay, well, what do you expect to achieve at the end of this?
At the end of the workshop, the key financing health security officers would have been reskilled on how the Nigerian budget cycle runs, how it works, to help them better understand how to create health security in our annual budget line.
Okay, are the states being carried along?
Hopefully, following on from here, our principals might then look at strategies or avenues on how to cascade it to states.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll keep you updated as development unfolds here at the Federal Ministry of Finance.
Thank you very much, Musa, for the updates from that end. Do have a nice one. The OPEC Secretary General Mohamed Sanusi Barkindo has urged members of the OPEC Joint Technical Committee to patiently continue the careful monitoring of the global market while providing insightful analysis for the ministers as part of efforts to continue nursing the positive trajectory experienced so far. This challenge was at the 51st meeting of the OPEC Joint Technical Committee JTC held virtually, and Lydia Sampson reports.
OPEC Secretary General said there are a multitude of positive signals regarding the global economy and prospects for the oil and gas industry. However, significant uncertainties remain. He restates that cautious optimism continues as OPEC's mantra because complete recovery is expected to be long, uneven and uncertain.
The revival of fortunes for the health of the economy and our industry is due in no small part to the efforts of the Declaration of Cooperation Partners. What has been particularly apparent about this group over the last year is how responsive we have been to the fast-changing environment.
He said the consensus among most economists and forecasting agencies is that with the right policies in place, the world can mitigate the worst impact of the dreadful COVID-19 virus. Already, the American economy, Barkindo says, is forecast to be stronger in 2040 than it was prior to the pandemic, as the checks for $1,400 per individual under the U.S. stimulus package are beginning to have an impact, with retail sales up 10% in the U.S. in March. As a result, U.S. unemployment fell to 6%, the lowest level since the pandemic struck. This has generated positive momentum with regard to oil demand. In OPEC's most recent monthly oil market report, world outlook demand growth in 2021 is expected to increase by about 6.0 million barrels per day, representing an upward revision of about 0.1 million barrels per day from last month's report. Despite the positive developments, OPEC Secretary General said, "We are all acutely aware that we are far from putting this pandemic behind us." One of the saddest pieces of news over the last month was the fact that the world crossed another gut-wrenching milestone. The global death count from COVID-19 exceeded 3 million people. He said, though the world can take comfort from the fact that over 1 billion vaccinations have been administered worldwide, there are several reminders that reaching the herd immunity will not be without setbacks. Barkindo stressed the need to bridge the gap with regard to the pace of vaccination rollout between developing countries and developed countries. He said, and I quote, "We will not be truly safe from COVID-19 until everyone is safe."
Time now for a trip to the global commodities market. In talking equities, Nigerian stocks were off to a positive start for the week, appreciating marginally by 0.04%. The opening figures this morning. European stocks were muted Tuesday morning as global markets prepare for the U.S. Federal Reserve's two-day meeting, which begins today. Buster Ebel reports.
Asian shares were little change on Tuesday as caution ahead of the U.S. Federal Reserve's meeting and corporate earnings upset optimism about the global recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan rose 0.01% and shares in China fell 0.08%. In Europe, FTSE stock futures are seen opening at 0.35% higher. German DAX futures and CAC 40 of France were still unchanged Tuesday morning, pointing to a soft start to the European session. In the U.S., stock futures held steady in overnight trading on Monday as investors braced for another batch of corporate earnings. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average and S&P futures were little changed, while Nasdaq 100 futures inched up 0.1%. Markets in Africa will also be watching the U.S. Federal Reserve this week as trading is expected to sustain positive moves, which began on Monday. With global market updates, Boss Today Able.
And this is where we end this edition of Business Express. Remember to keep in touch with us, so send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now. The hashtag is Business Express returns Wednesday at 3 p.m. I am Leah Katun Baba Tunde saying be safe out there.